What if the true hero of the next era for the Maple Leafs hasn't even laced up his skates in the NHL yet? While the headlines pile up in Toronto, while the city teeters on the brink of another emotional collapse each playoff, far from the spotlight of Scotiabank Arena, a young player is dominating an entire league with a chilling coldness. His name? Easton Cowan. The stage? The OHL playoffs. And a question that is starting to bother even the most skeptical. Is the future of the NHL's most pressured franchise about to change hands? Cowan isn't just playing well. He's playing as if he wants to rewrite destiny. In 5 postseason games, he already has 13 points. 4 assists in the last victory alone. A 6-3 commanding win by the Knights over the Erie Otters. He's not just efficient. He's being dominant. But to understand why this matters so much, we need to go back in time. Back to the pain, the waiting, the ghosts that have haunted Toronto since 1967. Because they're, in that year frozen in history, the Leafs last raised the Stanley Cup. And since then, no matter how many talents emerged, how many millions were invested, how many promises arrived, there's always been something missing. It's been entire generations feeding hope in April, only to watch it crumble in May. The names changed, the arenas evolved, but the wound, it remains open. In recent years, with Auston Matthews, Mitch Marner, and William Nylander, Toronto has experienced a kind of renaissance. They won a playoff series, broke curses, but stopped there. No banner, no trophy, just frustrated expectations and the eternal search for something or someone different. And maybe, just maybe, that someone is wearing the green of the London Knights today, not the blue and white of the Leafs. Easton Cowan was drafted in the first round in 2023, and many people turned their noses up. He wasn't a name that appeared on every top pick ranking. But those who looked beyond the numbers saw something special, a player with instinct, intelligence, and leadership qualities, despite being one of the youngest on the ice. In 2023-24, he exploded with 96 points in 54 games. And even though this regular season he fell short of that mark, with 69 points in 46 games, what he's showing in the playoffs is what separates the good from the great. He rises when the pressure is on. In the series against the Owen Sound Attack, he recorded 9 points in 4 games. Now, against the Otters, he continues to pile up assists, impactful plays, and game reading at high speed. And all of this at just 19 years old. Behind the scenes of the Maple Leafs, Cowan's name is starting to circulate with a new weight. General Manager Brad Treliving has been paying close attention not only to production, but to his profile. Because the Leafs don't just need talent. They need players with grit, hunger, and personality to endure the whirlwind of being a Maple Leaf. And Cowan has shown to be exactly that. Sources close to the management indicate that he will have space at next season's training camp. But the big question is he already ready to be part of the main roster? Or would it be safer to let him mature a bit more before throwing him to the Lions? The answer might be in the locker room itself. Sheldon Keefe, the Leafs head coach, has been advocating for changes in the team's culture. After another early elimination, the pressure for results is no longer just external. Internally, there's a demand for a new identity. More sweat, more effort, more tactical commitment. Cowan is exactly that type of player. He plays on both sides of the ice. He's used on the penalty kill, the power play, in defensive and offensive situations. And most importantly, he seems to thrive under pressure. Some say he reminds them of a young Brad Marchand, annoying to opponents, loved by teammates, lethal with the puck on his stick. Others compare him to Braden Point, overlooked in the draft, but with a hockey IQ above average and an unquestionable work ethic. And this is the kind of piece that can change a franchise. Because if Cowan can translate this impact to the NHL, the Leafs don't just get a young player with an entry-level contract. They get time. They get cap flexibility. And most importantly, they get a new identity on the ice. Imagine a third line with Cowan, Max Domi, and Kaye Jarnkrok. A fast, physical trio, capable of handling the tough minutes of the game and still generating offensive production. This would free up the Stars' minutes, add depth, and bring an energy that, let's face it, has been lacking when the game heats up in the playoffs. But of course, there's the other side of the coin. The transition from the OHL to the NHL is brutal. Many have shown in juniors and stumbled in the big league. The game is faster, more physical, more unforgiving. Cowan will have to prove that his decision-making, his endurance, and his tactical maturity are at the necessary level. That's why the training camp will be more than just a test. It will be a battleground for a new place in the team's hierarchy. If he performs well, the implications are huge. It could open up space for trades. It could force a reevaluation of veteran players. And it could finally bring to the Leafs what has always been missing: a player with star talent and a worker soul. Cowan is the antithesis of stardom, and that, in a city star for real commitment, could be the difference maker. The truth is, this story is still being written. But every shift he plays in the OHL playoffs is another line in a script that seems to point toward the NHL. So, fan, would you bet on Cowan next season? Or do you think he needs another year of development? Leave your opinion in the comments. This is a time to build this conversation with those who understand the weight of wearing blue and white. If you want to stay one step ahead on rumors, analysis, and strategic moves that could decide the future of the Leafs, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and leave that like. Because this isn't just hockey. This is Toronto. This is about destiny. And the kid named Easton Cowan could be the missing piece. What if the future of Canada's most famous defense is being built centimeter by centimeter, like a reinforced concrete wall? What if behind each new signing there's a silent message? We will never be pushed around again. We will never be fragile. We will never accept falling short before our time. The Toronto Maple Leafs seem to have made a choice, and it has nothing to do with speed, nor with refined puck handling. It's about weight, height, and a drastic shift in the DNA of a franchise that spent decades chasing beauty, but failing to earn respect. The announcement was simple: no fanfare, a social media notification, a 3-year contract. But for those who look beyond the obvious, it was a warning. Blake Smith, a defenseman standing 6 feet 5 inches and weighing 225 pounds, is coming to Toronto. And he's not just here to fight for a spot. He represents a new manifesto, a player with the face of the OHL, the grit of old-school hockey, with a style that seemed to have disappeared. But now, on Bay Street, it's being revived. Smith isn't a star. At least, not yet. He spent the past few years with the Flint Firebirds in the OHL, where he scored 10 goals and added 22 assists in 64 games last season. He also racked up 54 penalty minutes, his personal record, and was invited to the Boston Bruins development camp in 2023, despite not being drafted. Now, he arrives in Toronto with a mission bigger than he might imagine. But to understand the weight of this signing, we need to go back. Back to when the Leafs still relied on elegant defenders, when the philosophy was to stay light, fast, creative. From Tomas Kaberle to Jake Gardiner, the Leafs always sought to build from talent. And the result? Decades of frustration. The last Stanley Cup was in 1967. Since then, Toronto teams have been dismantled year after year in the playoffs. Spectacular players like Matt Sundin, Austin Matthews, and Mitch Marner became symbols of hope, but also of a pattern. Teams that play beautifully but fall apart when the game gets ugly. It seems that now, the club's leadership has decided to rewrite that story. If you cheer for the Leafs, if you suffer through every elimination, if you get excited for every signing that seems to change their destiny, then this channel is for you. Subscribe now, hit the bell, leave a like, and comment, because what's happening in Toronto isn't just an off-season. It's a philosophical reconstruction, and you're part of it. Blake Smith's arrival isn't an isolated move. It's part of a pattern that's intensifying. Today, the Leafs defense is one of the tallest in the NHL. Brandon Carlo and Philippe Myers are both 6 feet 5 inches. Jake McCabe and Morgan Riley are also 6 feet 5 inches. Simon Benoit is close, at 6 feet 4 inches. Chris Tanev stands at 6 feet 3 inches. And Oliver Ekman-Larsson, surprisingly, measures 6 feet 6 inches. And when Yanni Hakanpää is healthy, he adds another tower at 6 feet 7 inches to the group. But it doesn't stop there. Behind the scenes, the Leafs farm system is already cultivating future giants. Cade Weber, also 6 feet 7 inches, is one of the most physical prospects in development. Ben Danford, a first-round pick in the last draft, stands at 6 feet 2 inches and plays with intensity well above average. John Prokop and Marshall Riffai complete a generation that seems to have been crafted with the same ruler. Even the goalies are fitting this new mold. Anthony Stolarz measures 6 feet 6 inches. Joseph Wall stands at 6 feet 3 inches. When you look at the entire roster, the average height and wingspan resemble more of a basketball team than a hockey squad. But why? The answer lies in statistics and the memory of a fan base. In recent years, the Leafs have been dismantled by more physical teams. Losses to Boston, Tampa Bay, Florida, always with the same script. When the game tightened, Toronto disappeared. Their defenders were pushed to the boards. The slot became no man's land. The neutral zone was crossed with ease. Technique succumbed to physicality. With the arrival of Brad Treliving, the tone has shifted. The management seems to have given a green light for a transformation that starts from the back. The mission now is simple: never be dominated again. Build a defense that doesn't yield, that uncomfortable, that hits and hurts. But with this change, new questions arise. The playing style must also adapt, and this puts Sheldon Keefe's job under a new spotlight. Is he the right coach to lead a team that's swapping fluidity for strength? Or will this change come with a new bench boss, someone with the right mindset to lead this transition to a more physical, direct style of hockey? And more. With so many giants occupying space, who gets left out? Nick Robertson, for instance, is already seen as a promising talent but too fragile for this new context. And Easton Cowan, the OHL prodigy, with his brilliant playoff season, is he still part of plan or now viewed as trade bait? With this new structure, the Leafs' identity is changing. It's no longer about having the puck. It's about controlling space, winning battles in the corners, intimidating. But what Toronto is building might be a wall or a prison. Yes, height helps. Strength commands respect. But in a league that's getting faster, is a defense of this size at risk of being exposed against teams like Carolina, Colorado, or even Edmonton? And when it comes to the playoffs, it's not enough to just hit. You need to think quickly, react in seconds, make fluid transitions. Is it possible to do all that with such a heavy defense? That's the big question. Blake Smith may never become a name on posters, but he is the symbol of a bigger movement. He's the piece that reveals the skeleton of this new philosophy. And now, it all boils down to one question. Will this new version of the Leafs protect the Stanley Cup dream or bury it under its own weight? Comment below. Do you think this new model is the right path? Or are the Leafs losing what has always been their essence? And if you want to understand how this new system might affect the ice time of the team's key players, click on the next video. We'll reveal how the arrival of new defenders to completely shift the hierarchy in Toronto. Subscribe, hit the bell, and stay with us. Because the Leafs are changing, and the future is giant.